Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Rabow. I'm the Medical Director of Palliative Care in the UCSF Cancer Center. And I'm here to share a few thoughts about grief in the time of Corona. I think the first and most important fact is that grief is normal. Grief is a normal human emotion. We grieve over the loss of someone, something that we love. And because love is a normal human emotion and pain is a normal human emotion, grief is normal. In that way, grief has to be. And although grief is normal and universal as human, there's no comparison between how any two individuals, any two separate people are grieving. Each person grieves in their own way and in their own time. Grief is normal, but it can be represented by a whole suite of different emotions. Most of us feel a lot of sadness, but other emotions can be normal as well. Feelings like anger, or regret, or guilt, or even physical pain. Grief is dynamic. It changes over time. It can go from being incredibly intense to almost imperceptibly there, and back and forth over time. Grief changes for everybody. Over time, however, grief is how loss heals. Grief is how loss heals. The process of grief is the process of integrating the loss of someone we've loved into our lives, into our new normal. And at the same time, grief is never done. We're never done with grief in the same way that we're never done with the love that we have for people we have lost. And although the normal processes of grief involve integrating loss into our lives, it's possible that grief can trip into something more difficult, more complicated, more prolonged. And if you're finding that your grief is overwhelming, please seek professional help. Therapists, counselors, even medication can be appropriate for the most complex forms of grief. And the last thing is something that I'm sure is painfully obvious to many, which is that the typical rituals for grief in our society, like funerals and memorials, had to become different, to be modified, to be moved online. And that loss is difficult as we are seeking connection and community to help process grief. But one of the things that can help sometimes are just the ritual of a poem, simple words that can be shared, heard, read to each other, remembered. So I'd like to leave you with a poem very meaningful to me and many from Mary Oliver called In Blackwater Woods. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I've ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. All my best to everyone grieving. Thank you.